Good morning, guys. Sorry I can't be with you in person, but I am on location in St. Gallen, Switzerland. We're taping a show. It's actually in 3 o'clock my time here in Switzerland, but which would be 9 o'clock your time. So I couldn't be with you live, so I'm pre-recording today's lecture. Hopefully this will work for you. Well, obviously, if you have any questions, you can post them on eCollege. I'll be checking after my production schedule is over, which will be probably early morning your time. So then I'll try to answer your questions online if you have any. But I wanted to start out with something from the Word, and I like this passage of Scripture from Ephesians 5:1 and 2. It says, "Be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." And I think that really the encouragement here for us is that we have a pattern. Jesus gave us a pattern to imitate. And it's encouraging to me because we're not told to be Jesus, but we're told to imitate. And, we're going to make some mistakes along the way, obviously, but the more we try to imitate Jesus, the more we try to be like Jesus, I think the more success we're going to find. And I know in our business it's very easy to try to imitate the world, especially in the area of journalism and media. We try to emulate what others are doing. But I want to encourage you guys to don't be afraid to be different. Stand out. Stand out for Christ. And I know that in the end, you'll be blessed, obviously, and I think truly successful. So I want to encourage you to do that. Now, I don't know, you may have some needs this morning, and obviously I can't take those needs live, but again, if you have something you want me to pray about and would like to share it with the class, go ahead and take a few moments here. I'm going to leave this screen up and mute my microphone. I'll come back on in just a second then and we'll pray. But share with each other and pray for each other. If you have something you want me to remember in prayer, then just go ahead and email me, okay? All right. Give you a few minutes to share. Okay, hopefully by now you've all had a chance to share with each other. If not, just go ahead and pause this before I pray, and then you can pick it back up again after I pray. But I'm going to go ahead and pray now. So if you're still sharing, pause the presentation, and then when you're done sharing, pick it up again. Play it again, okay? Father, we are so thankful. Even though we're halfway across the globe, God, by your Spirit, we can be together, and our spirits can identify with each other. And God, we thank you for that. I thank you that even though I'm not there in person, I know that you are, and I pray that you would answer the requests that have been made today. Maybe some have not been made because they don't want to share. They feel like it's too personal to share. So I just pray that you would be with each person in their needs. I pray, God, that you would help us to be imitators of you. We want to be imitators of you, that we might be fruitful, and we might be able to share the love that you've given to us to other people around us. God, may we bless you in everything that we say and all that we do. And God, I pray that you would help to overcome the difference in the way we're presenting today's lesson, that you would help it to be effective, and that you would be glorified in all that we say and do. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, guys, we're going to be working from lesson 4 today, and we won't finish this, I don't think, today. In fact, if this lecture goes long because you have to stop it a few times, I would like you to stop and start it as a entire class, but if it goes long, then we'll finish it up on Wednesday or Thursday, or Wednesday, I'm sorry, Wednesday or Friday. But so go ahead and open your books up to lesson 4, which begins on page 131. It's called Manual Timeline Editing. Now this is a new type of editing, a new way to edit, I should say. To this point, we've been loading source clips into the source monitor, marking ins and outs, and then loading them into the timeline from there. But we're going to do some things a little different. We're going to drag and drop into the timeline, and this will be very similar for you that have been editing using other types of software like Adobe Premiere or perhaps Final Cut. This will seem very similar to you, and you might really decide to adopt this method as editing as opposed to the loading of clips, marking in and outs, and putting them into the timeline. But so whatever works for you, the bottom line is, you find a method that you like to use best, and then you'll stick with it. So we're going to have to load in some new media, and hopefully you all have that media. It should be on your hard drive, your Macintosh HD. We should have loaded this file on from the first couple of days of class. You might have also put it on your desktop, but the folder that you're looking for is the folder that says Additional Project Media. That folder is on your source disk, your DVD that came with your book. So if you don't have that on your hard drive or the desktop, you need to load that on now, because we're going to be using media from that particular project. So hopefully you all have it. If you don't, then go ahead and stop this lecture, pause it at this point, and load this media. I would suggest that you put it on the Macintosh Macintosh hard drive, but if you already have it on the desktop, that's fine. It'll work just fine there. So again, if you don't have it, let's stop the lecture at this point and make sure everybody has it loaded on. And if some of you don't have it and you need some help, then help each other get it loaded on. By the way, since I'm not conducting this lecture live, there may be some questions that arise. If you have questions, go ahead and post them on eCollege in the social media chat area, and I will get to those probably. My production is at the same time that you are in class. We're starting our production this afternoon here in Switzerland at 3 o'clock, which is 9 o'clock your time. We'll be in the St. Gallen Monastery. So, but I'll be probably 3 to 4 hours in production, and then an early meal. So I'll be checking my eCollege somewhere probably around, I would say 1 or 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock at the latest your time. So you can, I'll get back to you as quickly as I can if you have questions. So let's give that a shot. So if everybody has the media, then fine, we'll then keep going. If not, then pause the lecture and make sure you all have this folder, Additional Project Media, loaded on to your computer. Okay, assuming that you all have it, you're actually going to, so we're going to open that up. And when you open that up, you'll see another folder in there called FTP QT Selects 2997 1280 by 720. If you open that up, you're going to see another folder in there that says Scenery and Time Lapse. And then these are the files that we're going to import. There are 5 files in here that we'll import. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down, and let's go ahead and launch Media Composer. And you're going to open up your project your JEM1453, your last name, you're going to open up that project folder because we're going to import this material into that project folder. So I'm going to open up JEM1453 Piper, and you should be opening your folder as well. By the way, since this is a recorded lecture, obviously you can go back and listen to it again. If you don't quite get it the first time, I would encourage you to go back and listen to it over, as many times as you need to make sure that you understand what we covered in this lecture. So I want you all to create. Now, I don't have everything that you have in your project folder, so obviously you're going to see more items. But first thing I want us to do is right-click in the gray area, and we're going to create a new folder. I've already done that, but I'll do it again. We're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this folder First Tracks Productions. Okay, First Track Productions. Okay, and then we're going to create a new bin, and we're going to call that new bin Time Lapse and Scenery. So I'll give you all a moment here to create that bin. Okay, so once you have that bin created, then we're going to drag that, click on the icon of the bin, and we're going to drag that into that folder that you just created. Okay, so you will notice that that is in, I have two of these obviously, so you'll notice that that is in the First Tracks Production. So you should have a folder, just one, that says First Tracks Productions, and in that folder you should have a bin that says Time Lapse. It should actually be spelled as one word, Time Lapse Productions, or Time Lapse and Scenery. So this one right here, the second one, is the correct spelling. Okay, then you're going to open up that bin, okay, by double-clicking it. Now, I've already imported my clips, but I'm going to show you. So when you open yours up, there should be nothing in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click, again, in the gray area of the Time Lapse and Scenery bin, and we're going to say Import. Okay, so we right-click, Import. Now we're going to navigate our way to that hard drive or the desktop. If you put the additional project media on the desktop, then you're going to click on Desktop. If it's in your Mac HD Macintosh hard drive, then you click that on, and I would say be in the list mode here, the second one over from the right. It'll be much easier to navigate. Double click on additional project media, and then you'll see this folder that says FTP QT Selects. Double click that. Scenery and Time Lapse. Double click that, and we're going to Command A to select them all. Okay, now for Greg, make sure that down here you've got your external hard drive, or anybody else in the class that's using an external hard drive, select your external hard drive as the destination. Otherwise, you'll select the Macintosh HD, and you will say Open, and you should get this window that is an import window, and it'll take a little bit of time to do the import. So I'm gonna give you time. I'm gonna pause here and allow you time to load up that material. Okay, now that that is done, in your time-lapse and scenery bin, you should have 5 clips. The 2007-8 time-lapse is 1 MOV, 2007-8 time-lapse is 2, full moon time-lapse is big flakes, trees, and icicle drip UT. So those 5 you should have, and obviously if you go to the frame mode, they should all have a piece of video associated with them. Okay, we have some other material we have to import, so we're going to close down this bin. We're going to create a new bin, and we're going to call this audio. So go ahead and create a new bin, call it audio, and drag that new bin into the First Tracks Productions folder. Okay, now with this audio bin, we're going to do the same thing that we did to the time-lapse and scenery. We're going to right-click. We're going to go to Import. And we're going to navigate to the additional project media, which you should come up to it again, if not Macintosh HD or desktop. Additional project media, First Tracks Assets, and music. We're looking for the music folder. So let's open up the music folder, and there are 3 music clips in there that we're going to select. So Command A. And again, if you have an external hard drive attached to your computer where you're putting your media material, then make sure you have that selected. Otherwise, you'll select Macintosh HD, and we say Open. And since this is only audio, it comes in a whole lot faster than the video, and you should all now have 3 audio tracks. And just to make sure, we're going to double-click one and play it. So you should all have audio. That First Tracks Techno 01 should have audio associated with it. Okay? Great. So let's close that bin down, and we're going to create one more bin. We're going to call it Sequences. The book actually tells you to call it My Sequences, but you can just call it Sequences. And again, we're going to drag that into the First Tracks Productions folder. So now in the First Tracks Productions folder, you should have an audio bin, a sequences bin, and a time-lapse and scenery bin. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves ready to edit, and I'm going to show you a new technique that you haven't seen before. But let's open up the time-lapse and scenery bin, and let's go ahead and double-click on this 2007-8 time-lapses 1 MOV. So let's double-click that to put it up in the source window. And if you take your position indicator here in your source window, this blue bar, and click and just drag it, you'll notice there are several different clips in there. This is more than just one clip. The whole clip has several different items. So we really would prefer, now this duration is only 32 seconds, but let's say you had an entire tape that was 30 minutes long, and you put it in there. It's a 30-minute clip, and if you're looking for a 15-second clip out of that, a 15-second take, then it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. So we want to break this up and organize it a little differently. So we're going to do what's called creating subclips, and it starts on page 133. And this is a great method for breaking up your clips into smaller clips, so it's a lot easier to find them. So first thing we're going to do is take a look at this clip, And so we're going to start at the beginning of it. Oh, by the way, there are three other keystrokes I want you to begin to learn: the J, the K, and the L. If I depress the L key, notice that plays forward. If I hit the K key, it pauses. If I hit the J key, it plays in reverse. Now, if I hit the L key more than once, it'll speed up, and you can see that I've got 150 frames per second now. Same as the J key. If I hit it a couple of times, it speeds it up. So we can use the JKL keys to navigate our way through a timeline as well. You can always hit the space bar and stop by hitting the space bar again. You can grab the blue position indicator and move it as well. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of this clip, and we're going to mark an in by depressing the I key or the E key as an echo, or you could actually click this button right here, which is a mark in. Now let's slowly navigate through this clip until we find a different clip. So this is all part of that clip. We roll. Okay. Notice right here it changes. Okay, this is actually a different clip. You can see that the camera shut down, and we'll go ahead and play it. Actually, that's all one clip right up until the point where the sun peeks through. So now you notice these two buttons here: step backwards 1 frame, step forward 1 frame. We also have that same option on our keyboard by hitting the 3 and the 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the 3 and the 4 keys on our keyboard until we just go to that frame there where the sun begins to peek up over the back of the mountain, and then hit the 3 key, which will take you 1 frame back until we're right there, and that becomes our out. So we hit the O or the R for an out. So now we've got this clip marked. Okay? And by the way, you'll notice you've got the play button here, but you also have a play loop down here, a play in to out. If I hit that button, it will play that clip for me from the in mark to the out mark. Okay? And then we can hit the 4 key to see that we go 1 frame forward and we're on the next clip. So now what we have our subclip marked. You see the in and the out right here. That becomes our subclip. Now what we need to do is we're going to make a new clip out of just this material, starting here and ending here. So take your pointer, go up to the icon all the way up in the top of your source window, and notice that my pointer turns into an index finger, and you'll notice it says create subclip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and hold and drag that down to this time-lapse and sceneries bin and release it. And as soon as you do that, you'll notice that you get a new subclip. And take a look at this icon. Notice that the subclip looks about half the size of a clip, and that's because it's not the full clip, but it's a piece of that clip. That's why we call it a subclip. Now the other thing I want you to notice, it just names that clip based upon the name of the original with a .sub.01. Well, that's not what we want. So we want to name this clip so that we know what it is, because we're going to work from the time lapse. We're going to work from the subclip. So you'll notice that as soon as you created the subclip, it's all already highlighted for you, ready for you to change the name. So we're just going to call this street scene. and then make sure you click in the gray area to close that down. So now if you double click on the street scene, that's our clip right there. So it's a lot easier for us to find the clip now because we've pulled it out of the main clip and we've created a subclip. Okay? And we're going to go back to our 2007-8 time-lapse 1, and now we're going to go to right where the clouds begin to peak, or the sun comes up over the mountain. We're going to use the 3 and the 4 key. As soon as we see that frame right there where the cloud, or I'm sorry, I keep saying clouds, where the sun comes up over the mountain, we're going to click the N or hit the I key or the E key. Okay, and now we're going to move our position indicator down until we go to the next shot. And then again, we'll get close and we'll use the 4 and the 3 key. Okay, that's where the next clip starts. We back up 1 and we mark an out. Okay, so this is our next subclip. We'll go up here and click the icon, drag it down to the bin, release it, and we're going to call this, let's see what the book says so we kind of get this right. I think Sun Behind Mountains. So we call this Sun Behind Mountains. And click in the gray area. And so that's our third subclip. So we'll go up here, back up to our source window, hit the 4 key to go 1 frame forward and backwards, and we see the next beginning of the next clip, so we mark an in, and we're going to scroll through till that clip ends, and we use the 3 and the 4 key again. Okay, that's the next clip. We back up 1 and we mark an out. Okay, and then this particular clip we'll call, I think we can just call that sky over mountain is what the book is asking. So again, you take your pointer, go up to the icon here where it says create subclip, click, hold, and drag to your bin, and we're going to call this sky over mountain. Click in the gray area, go back to your source clip, and again we'll hit the 4 key to go to the next frame, mark an in, and I think this goes all the way to the end. Yes, we go to the end, mark an out, grab the clip, again, hold it, click and hold, drag it down, and we're going to call this dashboard POV. POV, not P-O-I-V. POV, and I think it's mountain highway is what the book calls for. And that's on page 135. Okay, so now we've created our subclips that we're going to use instead of going to the main clip. All right, so let's now get ready to create our first sequence. I'm going to pause here for a moment to give you all a chance, or this might be a great place for you to pause and give you a chance to catch up in case you weren't able to keep up with me. So I'm going to allow you to pause at this point. Okay, you should by now have finished up with all your subclips, which means you should have in your time-lapse and scenery bin, in addition to the 5 clips that you imported, you should have a clip that says dashboard POV mountain highway, sky over mountain, sun behind mountains, and street scene. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and create our new sequence, and I'm going to show you a different method of creating the sequence. So first off, let's go ahead and we're going to be needing our audio bin, so let's click on the audio icon, drag it down to this gray area in the time-lapse and scenery bin at the top, and release it. Notice that loads the audio bin, and we're going to grab we're going to leave the sequences bin up here for now. So we're going to begin. We're going to do another example of radio editing where we're going to put the music down first, and then we will load up our clips into the timeline so that it matches, where we want it to be and edit. And I'm going to show you another cool way to edit. So we're going to use the First Tracks First Tracks Techno 01. So this time, instead of loading it into the source monitor, marking in and out, and then loading it into the timeline, we're just going to grab it. So you're going to click on and hold it, click on and hold the mouse down, and drag it down to the timeline window right here, and release. And look what happens. And again, some of you are probably very familiar with this method. You'll notice that the audio clip went into a sequence, and it created a new sequence, and you'll see that new sequence in your audio bin. It's called Untitled. So obviously, the first thing we need to do is to rename the sequence, and we're going to name this sequence First Tracks Montage 01. So let's go ahead and rename it 01. Now, since that's a sequence and this is a clips bin, we don't want the sequences to be in our clips bin, so let's double click on the sequences bin, okay, and drag it out of the way here so you can see, and we're just going to click on that First Tracks montage and drag it over to the sequences bin. Okay, now you have to keep this bin open. Notice what happens if I close it down, then my sequence goes away. So we got to keep the sequences bin open, but we're going to grab the sequences bin tab and drag it over and drop that into this window. And now we have our time-lapse, audio, and sequences all open, and we're ready to start editing. So let's go ahead and go back to our sequences bin and double click on the First Track Montage 01 so we have this back in our timeline. And if I play this, then you should hear, and when you play yours, you should hear the audio of the music you just laid in. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button. And there you go. So now we have audio for our sequence. Now we don't have any video, obviously, so now we have to start laying in the video for our track. So we're going to go back to time-lapse scenery, and we're going to, now that we're going to want to load these clips in directly to the timeline, we probably need to go, I think it's going to be best for you to work from the frame mode, okay? So we can see all of the visual elements of the clip. So remember, to make these clips larger, we hit Command L a couple of times, and then to clean up the window, we go down to the Fast menu and say Fill Window. So these are all the clips then that we have to work with from our time-lapse window. If you go back to text, you notice we should have these 5 plus the 4 that we created, so we should have a total of 9 clips. So if we go back to the frame mode, you'll see 3, 6, 9. So now what I want you guys to do is, we're going to deviate a bit from the book right now, and I'm going to give you the rest of the period to just go ahead and practice with this new methodology, dragging and dropping right into the timeline. So the way that works is, if I want to start out with this dashboard POV, I'm going to click on the clip, hold the mouse down, and just drag it down to my timeline. Now notice, it went into, I'm going to undo that, and you'll notice that it goes into the timeline exactly where I drop it. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we want to move, let's move this window up to here, because we're not going to need our source window anymore. And I'm going to want that clip to go right to the beginning of the timeline. So I'm going to grab the clip and I'm going to drag down, and notice when I'm down here you'll see this, I'm moving up and down that gray box, but the white box, the white frame is the one you're interested in. I'm just going to move my cursor to the left until it's right at the beginning. Notice that line turns yellow when it's right at the beginning, and then just release your mouse and boom. There you go. You've got your first clip in your timeline, and you will just do that one clip after another. Pull it down, park it right at that clip so that it's right up against that first clip, and release it. Now notice this sun behind the mountain. That's pretty long. So maybe I don't want all that. So I'll just grab my next clip, drag it down, and instead of putting it at the beginning of this, I'm gonna come back here with it. Now I want you to notice something. What happens when I release the mouse? Notice it took this sun behind mountains, cut it, and put the rest of it down here. The reason it did that, notice when I grab this street scene and drag it down, you see this arrow? What color is it? Yeah, it's yellow. And remember, the yellow means splice in. So we don't want this to splice in, we want it to overwrite. Okay, so I'm going to do that, Command Z. Now I'm going to go over here to my Smart tool. I'm going to click the red key. Now I'm going to drag the street scene down and park it right there and release it. Notice what it did now is it just overwrote that. So you can just drag and drop your clips into the timeline like this, and see, I've got this very large clip, but I can drag a new one in, and I can just keep overwriting until I get where I want with this. Okay? And then turn off the red arrow, and when you get down to the end here, if you got some stuff left over like I do here, we're going to hold the Command key down and click near this end of the music right here, and that locks us to the beginning point where we want to start extracting. So we mark an in with the I key. Now we're going to hold the Option Command key, click here, mark an out, and now we can use either the lift key or the extract key, but we don't want to leave a hole here, so we're going to use the extraction key, and boom. So there you have it. Probably not very creative, but it's a quick way to get your clips down into the timeline. So that's what we're going to do for today. So what I want you to do is take the rest of the period, finish up, just create, again, it doesn't have to be creative. I just want to make sure you have some practice using this methodology. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to manage the clips as you put them into your timeline. So again, if you have any questions as we've gone through this, remember, you can stop and start the lecture at any point. You can go back, rewind it. You can go through the lecture as many times as you want. And then when you're finished, by Wednesday, I want you all to have some sort of sequence that you created using this methodology of dragging the clip directly down to the timeline. And then on Wednesday, we're going to pick it up. If you have any questions that still linger, be sure to put those in the eCollege social media section so that everybody can see them. and we'll answer them as we can. And as I said, you guys can answer each other's questions as well. Okay? All right, guys. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't see you in person. Hopefully Wednesday my schedule will be freed to the point where I can do this live and then take your feedback then. But go ahead and work on this, and then we'll resume our discussion here on Wednesday, okay? All right, guys. God bless. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.